Last night, I dreamed I was at my own funeral. I've been having this dream almost every night for the last year. It's such a surreal feeling seeing the people you love mourn losing you. At the same time, it's also kind of nice knowing that these people care so much about my existence. Obviously, having this kind of dream would be mildly unsettling to most. But I see it as an opportunity to know that, when things come to an end, people will actually care. As of late though, there's been a disturbing part of the dream. I keep seeing this person that I don't recognize. He stands among my friends and family and just seems to loom the entirety of the service. For some reason, I can't place a name to his face, but I can feel that something is off about him. The couple times I've seen him, he's always seems to target someone in the crowd and approaches them to console them. He seems so very gentle with them, but when I see his eyes, they seem to have a faint hue, a slight red glow, as he stares at where I lie in my coffin. Now I know most people would just say that it's nothing more than a dream, but I've watched him approach two people in this dream. Both people that he's approached have ended up getting into horrible accidents. One of them passed away. The other will never walk or speak again. I know it's just a dream, but how could it be a coincidence that the two people the man approached in my dream both ended up where they are? There's only so much that you can equate to random chance. Last night, I dreamed I was at my own funeral again, and the man was there. He was there during the entirety of the service, and this time, he did something different. He requested to give my eulogy. He stood in front of the entire crowd of people and spoke to them, comforting them and telling them that I was in a better place. This morning, I received a call that my parents and my younger sister were hit by a drunk driver. None of them survived. I saw a news report that there was a fire at a local college in the dorm where a number of my friends stayed. My girlfriend's mother called me this morning to tell me that she had taken her own life the night before. All of them were gone. Comforted by his words and lulled into the afterlife. Now, I'm sitting here and waiting my turn. You see, at the end of my dream, after the eulogy, he turned to look at my body in my coffin. He ran a hand through my hair and told me that everything would be okay. His words were comforting, and I felt calm as I watched his glowing eyes pierce my soul. The past 2 years have been really tough, honestly. I say 2 years, but my grasp on time feels foggy as of late. My sister and I graduated from high school, but didn't move on like most normal kids would. There were no part-time jobs, cute prom dates, or thoughts of university. It wasn't so much that we weren't allowed, but a fear of leaving each other behind, and a mixture of low self-esteem. The fear of leaving felt justified when my mother was murdered. Our stepfather had always been controlling and abusive, but murder was something we had never considered. Maybe it was a form of Stockholm Syndrome, I'm not sure. I try not to dwell on the past as it hurts too much. The murder was brutal. I found it hard to believe all that blood came from one person. Admittedly, some of it came from me, and I have the scars on my face as proof. I miss her. I really do. And it makes it all that much harder to move on with my life. I don't know what I could have done differently, but I know I could have done much better. My sister and I were without any extended family or close friends you may call auntie or uncle. The only silver lining was that we owned the house and continued to live in it. It sounds crazy when I put those words to paper, but where else would we go? The house was cleaned by a group of workers in hazmat suits. They reminded me of something straight out of a science fiction movie. You know, when the alien falls from space and they're worried about some new space disease. I guess it's similar, right? Our house was a crash site, and the situation left behind is alien to most of humanity. Sorry, I'm rambling. I don't talk to too many people. Everything had been covered in blood, so we didn't have much furniture. The hazmats took it all. My sister stayed with me in the house for a while, but she mostly stared at the walls or paced the house. I think she was more broken up about it than I was, but I guess we all heal differently. My sister started to speak with me, but our conversations were few and far in between. She would do most of the talking, and I would just listen. I don't know what got into her, but one night, she said it wasn't right that either of us stayed in the house, and she wanted me to move on. It was in her words. Morbid inside, to say the least. She said she could no longer stay with me, and needed to find peace outside of this sad existence. I tried to stop her. I begged and tried holding on to her as she was leaving, but it was no use. She walked out the door and left me alone. I watched from the hallway as the headlights from her car filled the house and signaled her departure. I was left alone, really alone. I cried for days. I cursed her and myself for staying. I ended up with some roommates that my sister had organized. She didn't even ask me about it. I knew I couldn't pay the bills, but it was my house too. I didn't understand how she could leave me with this family, a symbol of what we had lost and would never regain. Sometimes I just watched them living their lives and imagined it as my own. There was a mother and her daughter who was a few years younger than I. My imaginary life had me as the mother of a teenager. I had so much love inside of me, but no one to give it to. No one loved me anymore, and I think that's why I wanted to love and care for another so badly. I made desperate attempts at building a relationship with my new roommates, but I was just some scarred, emotionally damaged girl with a dead mother who they ignored. The only positive of having them around was that I didn't need to work to pay the rent. I could endure my solitude without having to fear the outside world. I've been an insomniac since the incident, and didn't sleep all that much during the night. The teenager Michelle never left her room, but she was up all night too. Sometimes I would watch the light shining from under her door and debate whenever I should talk to her. I knew it was late, but I only really walked around the house at night when everyone was asleep. Most days I'd feel so alone that it hurt, but there was a sense of safety in my bubble. I didn't want to add the rejection of my roommates to that list. Eventually, after weeks of agonizing over it, I finally knocked on her door and tried to make new friends. At first she thought it was her mother. I opened the door with a weak smile and opened my mouth to talk with her, but she screamed at me so loudly that I ran away. I should have known better. It was just another tragic story. Someone you'd seen on Dr. Phil, but on display for everyone to point at and tell how brave and amazing they were. How many people would actually befriend that person? Would you go to coffee with a girl who has scars that give the impression they might burst apart at any moment? You'd probably say yes in an effort to look compassionate in front of your peers. But if I asked you in an empty room, the reality would be much different. After that night, the sadness I felt turned to anger. They lived in my house and treated me like I was nothing. I was sick of being alone. I was sick of being like this. I'd never done anything people would deem bad before. I'd never stolen, barely ever lied, and was raised to sit quietly and keep my mouth shut. I had started small with my revenge so I could build up to a grand finale. At first it was small things. I pulled a fish from the fridge and hid it in Michelle's room. For days I watched her try to find the smell. I laughed as she gagged while her mother scolded her for leaving food in her room and forgetting about it. I stepped it up and started stealing things from her room. I'd hide them in my closet and sat with a smug look as she looked for it. I stole the mother's jewelry too, but I flushed it down the toilet. My mother never had nice jewelry, so why should Michelle? Some nights, I'd knock on her door and make scary faces when she opened it. In a sick way, her screams felt like encouragement. Her mother would scream at me to stop it, but she still couldn't make eye contact with me. It was too ugly for her, and it was too late to stop it now. I continued this for months. Don't ask how many. They were scared of me, and their fear felt much better than the rejection. Eventually they hit the breaking point, and I heard Michelle's mother on the phone to the real estate agent. I was ecstatic, and sure my sister would come back soon. If not to stay, then at least to visit me. She never visited me. Knowing that they might be leaving soon, I pulled all the plates they had out of the cupboard and started smashing them. The mother rushed out of her room and screamed at me to stop.
Tired of everything.
What are you
Get
doing?
out!
Stop!
No, you guys just treat me like crap all the time. I'm tired of it.
Please
This is
stop!
my house. I'm done.
I screamed at her as loud as I could to leave, and she scrambled to find her car keys. As I held the last plate above my head, Michelle screamed for her mother, who rushed her out of the door. Admittedly, I had gone too far, but that didn't stop a smile spreading across my face. After 2 days, they returned with a moving truck and a greasy-looking man in a suit. I figured it was her lawyer and hid in my room when I heard her screaming something at the greaseball in the suit. It really confused me. She screamed.
What do you mean a family was murdered here?
Hello friends, it's me Lucid. Thank you so much for stopping by. If you made it this far, consider liking and subscribing. I also got a new microphone, so comment down below what you think of the audio. I think it sounds really nice. But with that being said, thank you guys for being patient with me. It's been a crazy 2 years, and I'm really excited. We're on our way to 1K. Right now we're almost at 750, so I'm praying for 800 by summertime. But with that being said, I'll see you guys in the next video. And if you guys would like to check out these two amazing creators, AsTheRavenDreams and Depthor, they both wrote the stories for these videos and let me read them kindly, so I will have those down in the description. But that's all for now. I'll see you guys in the next video, and until then, stay spooky. And as always, the dark is simply the answer.